My name is Rachel Virk. My company is Rachel Virk PC. I'm a divorce litigator and mediator. My office is located in Sterling, just down the road from the Dulles Town Center Mall off Route 7. And for people who can sit down with their ex-to-be and work out and create their new two-home family for their children, I can help them sit down and do that through mediation or non-adversarial negotiation. Or if they need to stand up to protect their business, personal safety, future financial security, I will help them stand up and fight it out through traditional litigation. About 20% of my practice is mediation. The other 80% is traditional litigation and negotiation. I'm also the longest continuously certified mediator in Loudoun County. I got mediation certification in 2001. And I have been litigating now in Northern Virginia for 35 years.
Wow.
So you would call me a seasoned divorce attorney.
That's right. No, we love people with experience. And that's why I love having somebody like you here on the podcast who can offer insight and share with us all your experience and insight on these matters, because this is a big life change for somebody.
Gosh.
It's not something easy, and I'm sure everybody has different situations. Before we get into all that nitty-gritty stuff, can you give us a background about yourself and like how you got into this industry and what led you to where you are today?
Well, it was the universe. I grew up in New England and very much involved in the outdoors. I thought I would be a park ranger or something like that. Spent a lot of time in the outdoors. That's where I feel most at home. So I went to the University of Miami for a marine science and biology double major, chem minor. I had grown up watching the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau and listening to John Denver. I finished that 5-year program. It's usually 5 years. In about 3.5 years, I was working on a doctorate in ornithology when I saw that path wasn't going to work, and I thought I would do environmental law and work for something like World Wildlife Fund, Sierra Legal Defense, Natural Resources Defense Council. I wasn't able to get one of those jobs, so like I said, the universe said, here you go, here's an opening in a law firm. They need a family law attorney. There were 10 of us in that Fairfax office, 10 in DC, 10 in Maryland. So I was there for about 9 or 10 years. Then I worked at a firm in Sterling for about 5 years, and then opened my own practice in 2005.
Wow, that is awesome.
So I was on the way to do environmental law, but the job that opened itself to me was in family law, and I found that I really liked that. I enjoyed helping people. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed, really helping the children of people divorcing. So it's been really a good 35 plus years.
A good career there, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So your background is interesting to me because it's totally different than from what you wanted to originally do. And that's just how life works sometimes, right? You think you're going to go in a certain path, but then it's like, surprise, this door opened up and you're
Correct.
like, hey, you know what? I think that's really inspiring. What advice would you like to give to anybody out there who is maybe trying to figure out what they want to do with their life and their career?
When I talk to people who are trying to figure that out, I tell them you have to think what is important. And especially for attorneys, first of all, let me just say, I never wanted to be an attorney. I never noticed the law. I'm not a big fan of litigation, by the way. Some people feel that there's a certain prestige, or they think there's a lot of money in being an attorney. So, I tell people who are heading towards a law career, are you looking for what you perceive as prestige and you want to work in a big DC firm? Are you looking for money and you want to work in a big DC firm? Are you looking for public interest and you want to work for government or some sort of public interest on one side or another? Are you concerned about the commute? I did interview at EPA, and I think back then the office was in Southeast, and they brought me down to a basement, and there was a metal desk, and I knew I could have gotten that job, but I thought, I'm going to have this enormous commute, and I realized if I worked in an office with no window at a metal desk, I would just be so depressed. Even though it was for a cause I wanted, I realized I also would have a tough time paying my student loans. I had also worked in some big DC law firms doing what they called environmental law, but it was really representing polluters in toxic waste Superfund cases. So I realized the culture of the big law firms, everybody trying to scramble to the top, uh, wasn't for me either. So I realized the thing that mattered for me was having control over my day. You're always responsible to your clients, but I could choose all the decisions in my cases. And I realized that was the most important thing to me. So the job I had for the first 9 years was woefully underpaid, had a bit of a commute, but I had my own office with a window and a tree outside it, and I controlled my own day. And so I would advise people, what is it that's important to you? And I realized what was important to me was not feeling like, there's a junior associate working for a senior associate, working for a junior partner, working for the senior partner that toils all day, hoping to go up the pyramid.
Yes.
That wasn't for me.
No, and I love that you figured that out yourself. Like, let me follow the path that everybody's doing. You said, no, I don't like the path that everybody else is doing. This is the way that I want to do it. This is the way that I want to work around my days. And I love that. That's a key point, I think, that you just said, is knowing what you want.
Well, as I mentioned, that job opened up to me because a friend said, hey, there's an opening in my firm. Come and join it. They're looking for somebody. And I didn't think it was what I wanted. But then I realized, okay, even though it's not paying, I'm controlling my day. I'm happy. I like the other people. I like the work. So, like I said, I feel, and I do feel guided very much by, spirit, but I do feel like the universe decided that this is the kind of work I should do. I do feel that I'm very good at it. And it just, I was just pointed in that direction, and here we are.
All right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about marketing. I know that you had mentioned that you're not a big Twitter person or Instagram person, and that's totally okay. That's why I asked this question, because not everybody does the same thing. So since you have a successful career and business, can you talk to me about what it is that you do? Is it all word of mouth? How are you doing your marketing?
I'm smiling because it just makes me laugh. When I opened my firm in 2005, and my husband is my general manager, we got a big yellow page ad for $3,000, and there was something called the Red Book, and each town had its own little,
I remember those.
little phone book kind of thing. And we spent money on that, and I was doing a seminar monthly that I advertised in a newspaper called the Easterner, Loudoun Easterner. I don't even know if it's still around anymore. And I had a little ad with my photo in it, and I did this once a month seminar, and I had never taken a business or marketing class. I didn't know what an elevator speech was. I thought that networking was a dirty thing. I thought that, I'm a divorce attorney. I thought what it was I don't want to meet people hoping to profit off their misfortune and
sense.
saying, oh, I'm meeting you. Hi, I'm a friend. Oh, call me if you're getting a divorce. I thought that's what networking was. I didn't understand that really, and again, the universe, somebody kept inviting me to a breakfast. I had no idea what this breakfast was. Turned out it was one of these marketing kind of groups like BNI or Chamber of Commerce. And I realized that if you network, you're meeting people, you're making friends with people, so that if they know somebody that you can help, they're going to give their friends your name. I also started talking to groups of mental health practitioners, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers. I would speak at their seminars. And then it became word of mouth, and then it became search engine optimization. I think at least half of my clients come from, I'm looking for a divorce attorney in Sterling, and you pop up, and reviews, because nowadays, really, it's reviews.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to that key point that you just said about mental health. Can you tell me how that plays a role in what you do and the people, please? Because I would like to know more about that.
Yeah, Lil, when people come to me, they are scared. They're scared. They're afraid they're going to lose time with their children. They're afraid they won't receive enough support, or they're going to have to pay too much support. They're afraid of losing all their hard-earned retirement money or home equity. They're afraid more often of the unknown. There are some people that will stay, male and female, in abusive relationships because it's a known to them, and the unknown is scarier. So fear, I think, can be one of the most predominant emotions that people have when they first come to see me. So I want to reassure them, look, we're going to make a plan, we're going to make a new life plan. But then again, let me just back up and say not everybody hates each other just because they're getting a divorce. So probably a good 50% of my cases, whether they're mediation or negotiation, are completely non-adversarial. These are people who don't hate each other just because they're getting a divorce. They don't want to spend the rest of their lives together, but they can co-parent, they can be friends. So, it's a matter, like on my website, I have a bar, and if you click Getting Started, there's something that says issues to be resolved. Those are all the things that we have to talk about. And some people talk about that with their ex-to-be before they come in, and we write up an agreement, and it gets signed pretty quickly, and it's done very fast.
Yeah.
25% of the time, people are pushing and horse trading. Horse is very complicated. And they spend a bit more money. And then maybe 25% of the time we're going to head off to court, and it becomes very expensive. There's a lot of litigation. And most of the time before a final hearing, people will settle their case. It's a very small percent that fully litigate. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, I know that, a lot of attorneys feel it's very important to have your day in court. I feel like it's more of a show with very limited ability to present evidence and testimony, because the delays are so incredible. Last court dates I set in divorces were 14 months from the day we scheduled them. Oh, and the custody hearings were like 12 months. And if you're in juvenile court in Fairfax, you might only have 3 hours to do a whole custody case. In Loudoun, you might get a whole day, but that day is going to start late. It's going to be interrupted by lunch and maybe some restraining order cases that come on. So your one-day hearing might allow you 1 hour of testimony, right? So it's all about how do you present the most important facts in this incredibly limited period of time. And that's a very artificial way to resolve a dispute. I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, no.
The cost of litigation is just tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So, I think people are better served by working things out between themselves.
Yes.
With good counsel. But sometimes you have to go to court, and there you go, and the system is what it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know if this is maybe an odd question, because it just got me thinking how close you actually get with your clients. But do you maybe retain, how do I say this, communication with them? It's not just like when you're helping them with that. Maybe you get like really deep and close with them that maybe they're reaching out to you
personally outside of the office?
Yeah.
No, because I've been in this business long enough to know that if I get too involved with all of the drama and pain that my clients are going through, I'm not serving them well. Mm. And if they want to call me just to talk and they're upset and I'm just talking to them about matters that I want to reassure them about, and it's more of a counseling role. Yes, we are attorneys and counselors at law, but I'm not a mental health therapist. Now, I will say that there are some people who maybe come from a certain cultural background, and it's a very emotional thing to do a divorce, has a lot of repercussions with their families, especially if their family is, quote, back home. There are people, men and women, who are being abused, and there's a certain element of counseling involved in that. But I very clearly delineate what I'm assisting them with in the office. I don't want to bill people to just talk with them to make them feel better, and I'm not a therapist.
That's right.
But to the extent that I'm helping them to make decisions and move on and understand maybe it can be a very liberating thing to leave a spouse who's beating you all the time, and it's not your cross to bear, and even though your mother might have felt that that's just what women have to deal with because back home that's what they dealt with, and if you divorce your husband, your sisters back home will never get married because now the family knows that a wife might leave her husband, but you have to decide, do I want to stay in this unhappy marriage where I'm being abused, or am I going to stand up and maybe lose the support of my family, or maybe they'll understand? So there is a lot to consider, and we do consider it, and I do help them with that. But aside from every now and then somebody who tugs at my heartstrings,
Yeah.
they all do, but when there are children,
Yes.
every now and then there's a case that, I kind of take home with me, but it's very important for us to keep the professional lines clear.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's why I wanted to ask, and I'm glad that you said that because it is important, I think, in any industry to have those boundaries and set aside, especially maybe somebody who's listening and maybe they're looking into this as a career. You can offer that insight as letting them know, like, yes, like these cases are heart-wrenching, but you also have to think about your own mental health and the best for your clients.
Right. There's an epidemic in the legal profession of mental health issues that sometimes can turn into substance abuse, especially with litigators. There are a lot of highs and there are a lot of lows. And you can get very involved in the result. I've had a case or two that at the end I was just in tears. I can think of one or two cases over the last 35 years where in closing argument I was practically in tears.
Oh.
So sometimes something can affect you, but it is important to understand you have to take care of yourself. You don't want to get burned out. I know attorneys who, I will tell you this, I think the most disturbing part of litigation is interactions with attorneys who are more concerned with profit than the children or the family, who will try to engage in tactics that are just annoying to deal with. They think they're being aggressive or whatever, but it's just more annoyance that you have to deal with. And that, I think, is the most annoying part of litigation, is other attorneys that feel that they need to be aggressive because that, quote, makes them a good attorney. It doesn't. And it does run up the fees. But, other than dealing with negative attorneys, you have to like what you're doing. I'll just say briefly, I had a case many years ago in Prince William. It was very contested. And I remember the judge, may he rest in peace, got so angry at one point he said, I'm going to get up, I have to go in my chambers and kick something. Okay. And when that case ended, the other attorney said, I am never going to do another family law case. And I know attorneys who have walked away from litigation and family law because it can be very contentious and difficult. And they decide it's just too stressful. It is a very stressful profession, I guess. But those of us who can have the staying power, we enjoy doing it. We know how to, weigh all the emotions and difficulty and personal issues and understand that we're actually doing a lot of good.
Yeah,
but not everybody can do family law litigation. It is very, very difficult.
Wow. No.
And that's not even to include here in Northern Virginia. We have every kind of, we've got government employees, defense contractors, IT people. They have a lot of complex retirement assets, investment properties, businesses, and all that gets carved up in the divorce. So a good divorce attorney will understand how to deal with the very complex, high asset issues that are involved in dividing up a marital estate.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you have basically a lot of insight, and I feel like a lot of people could definitely benefit who's going through anything like this or are looking for guidance, which leads me to your book.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I would love to talk about your book.
So I wrote the book on divorce called The 4 Ways of Divorce: litigation, negotiation, collaboration, mediation. Those are the 4 ways of going about it. One of the good things about the book is in the back, there's like a list of topics to be resolved. These are all the things that people have to work out. How are you going to file your taxes? Do you itemize? Do we need to talk about the mortgage interest deduction? Who's going to do the health insurance? What about the cars, business, let alone retirement, home equity, and support and custody? So there's a lot there. The book has, it's actually very readable. It's on Amazon, I think $9 on Kindle or something like that. It's a very readable book, except chapter 8 is very, very heavy. Those are all the things that we have to either work out or fight out. But there's a lot of good information in the book, and there's a lot of good information on my website. Bite-sized bits, not overwhelming. I will say that on the website there's a nice 2-minute video of how to tell your children about divorce. and there's a little script. I do have an About the Children page, and that page does talk about things like, well, if your spouse assaults you and you call the police and have them charged with family assault and get a restraining order, and maybe that person goes to jail, let's say it's the guy, but it could also be the gal. And if the guy is going to tell the kids, oh, look, mommy put me in jail, or the lady says, I don't want to put him in jail, you know, you need to look at that like, no, there's a right and there's a wrong. And society has certain restrictions and requirements and laws and rules. And if you break them, there's consequences. And if daddy did something he shouldn't have done, that was his choice, and there's a consequence to that. You know, it's not mommy put daddy in jail, daddy put himself in jail, okay? But then there are some ladies who are saying, oh, but then he'll lose his job and we won't get support. Well, now you have to make some decisions. Or, well, you know, he's doing all these things to alienate the children who are 15, 16, but, you know, alienate them from me, and he's trying to buy them with affection and money and promises and college and cars. And now you got to make some decisions. Are you putting up with abuse or manipulation for money? Or are you kind of turning it around and using them? Or are you going to say, you know what? Chips fall where they may. I'm not going to let myself be taken advantage of this way, and I'm not going to do it for money. So there are a lot of decisions. You know, divorce or any conflict will bring out the best in a person or the worst in a person. And it is a process, and for those who want to look at it as a process of self-discovery and growth, a lot of things come into sharp focus about what your values are. Are you trying to weaponize the children against your spouse and turn them against your spouse because you're codependent on them, or you're trying to punish your spouse because you have borderline personality disorder or you're narcissistic? In which case you're never going to change, and your spouse needs to understand how to set limits and deal with that. So there are a lot of priorities that come into focus when you go through any conflict, and divorce is one of the big sources of conflict. Yeah. And for some people who are going to have a difficult divorce, but they don't want conflict, they need to understand you're going to have conflict. Your life isn't just going to continue the way it's been all this time. So it's about how to manage that conflict, how to take care of yourself, how to understand it might be a 2-year process, how to take one step at a time, and how to reach out and get the resources and help and support that you need. I will provide the legal aspect of that, but you may need other support besides the legal support.
Wow. Sorry. That's just a lot of stuff to take in. And growing up, like, I had a mom who also, like, was like, what about, I'm scared. Like, you know, she's, I don't want to make this about me or anything, but it's just everything that you're saying. And maybe there's listeners out there who hear this stuff and they weren't aware of it or anything like that. I'm just so grateful that you were on this podcast today and offering all this insight that a lot of people didn't even know about or think about. Like, you have to think about the kids, you have to think about yourself, the other person, but you have to think about it in a way where, why are you doing that? And why are you staying, or why are you choosing not to? So I think you being here today is just a very powerful, I don't even know how to put it into words.
Well, you know, here in this area too, we're a very cosmopolitan area. I'll do same-sex cases, both guys and gals, agreements and mediations and divorces. A very large percent of my cases are people whose parents or themselves came from another country, and there can be all sorts of cultural aspects to the case. There are a lot of complexities in this area because people are so different here from, you know, whatever mainstream old America used to be. We're just a very cosmopolitan area, and my clients come from all over the world, whether themselves or their parents. Yeah. And that does influence how people view the process and their role in raising children or being independent. Divorce can be very liberating, you know. For some people, it's a happy, liberating thing. For other people, they feel like it's the end of the world. But I will say, okay, I'm going to back up to make 2 points.
Yes, please.
I never had a divorce where people had been married at least 20 years prior to about 1995. And if you think about that, if that was 95 and they'd been married 20 years, they were married in 75, and their parents were born in, I don't know, do the math. So there was a time people, if they stayed together 20 years, they were just going to keep staying together. Something happened around 95 where all of a sudden I had 12 divorces of people who'd been married over 20 years. And it just kept going up. And I would say now that half of at least my cases involve people who've been married more than 20 years.
Wow.
It's a very common thing. Now, with some of those people, it's very jarring for them. Other people, it is very liberating. But again, these are people with assets and children who are older, and there is a lot of complexity in that. So divorce has changed over the years. The laws have changed over the years, but the issues of the heart, they've stayed the same.
Yeah, no, wow. That is something to think about, because back then I feel like it was more of the standard to think like, oh, well, you're married to this person, you just got to stick it out and stay with him. Like, do not get divorced. Like, that is just terrible. Think of the kids. But oftentimes I feel like,
oh my God. So, okay, you just triggered me.
I'm so sorry.
So, two things. Oh, it's the principle. Oh my God. No. Think about what the principles are that matter, okay? Or we're staying together for the kids. I will tell people, you're teaching your kids how to be in a bad marriage. You're teaching your son it's okay to abuse or be abused. If the guy is being abusive, you're teaching your son that this is acceptable. If you have a daughter and you're being abused and you're the lady, you're teaching your daughter that this is acceptable. So this idea of staying together for the kids, I usually have a problem with, although I have had some clients who, quote, decided to stay together for the kids because it was easier, but they didn't have conflict, okay? And in some of those cases, it did benefit them to share time and whatnot. But if there's a high conflict situation, you're not doing your kids any favors, not at all.
So it's case by case, definitely.
Oh, every case is unique and individual. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I could literally talk to you all day. I really could. But if there's anything maybe that I have not touched on that you would definitely like to share with the audience, or just want to make sure I make the best use of your time while you're here.
There's just so much. Like I said, some people can sit down with their ex-to-be and create their new two-home family, because not everybody hates each other just because they're getting a divorce. And there can be a lot of tenderness and love and affection between two divorcing people. That's just not unusual anymore. And I do have the privilege and honor of seeing people like that because I mediate. There are some divorce attorneys who will say, don't do anything until it's in writing, all this. And I know that some people have financial trust and they can buy and sell properties and divide their assets and do all this before it's ever in writing.
Yeah.
But then again, there are some people who need to stand up to protect themselves or protect their children. And then you need somebody who's going to be aggressive in a professional way, who knows what they're doing, who can handle the complexities, who understands how the courts work. That's a whole art right there. Yeah. And if, like myself, the attorney litigates throughout Northern Virginia, each court has its own procedures and rules and whatnot. I litigate half the time in Fairfax, half in Loudoun County. I used to litigate in Prince William County, but I would tell anybody who comes to me who has a Prince William case, you're going to be better off with an attorney in Manassas or Prince William who knows the courts, who knows the judges, and whom the judges know. So there's just so much complexity to it. There's the emotion, there's the substantive knowledge. And then for someone like me who has a business, you got to know how to run your business. And that's also a big part of being successful. And I've been blessed to have great colleagues who've been with me from the beginning. A couple of legal assistants who stayed with me for 9 years or 11 years. It's very important that you have a good team, and I'm blessed to have that.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. How many people do you have on your team, by the way?
So I am the attorney, and there are 4 people who support me: the general manager, his assistant, the bookkeeper, and my paralegal. So it's myself and my paralegal who have all the contact with the clients day to day. and then all the other three who keep the business. So I keep the business running. So I have the luxury of being able to just do my work
Yes.
and network, which means going out and meeting people and letting them know that I can help their friends if they're heading for a divorce.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. I love that you like worked your way up and you're at a place where you're like, you know what, I have my team that I rely and support and we have each other's back. I love that. And now before I get to my end here, I do want to know what you like to do to unwind. Like, do you like to take a bath, play some music?
I never wanted to be an attorney. I don't get my identity about over being an attorney. You'll see me at Costco on Saturday. That's why I always run into people, and you would never think I'm a lawyer. I feel most happy in the woods, on water. I spent my teen years hiking for weeks at a time on the Appalachian, canoeing rivers, climbing mountains, getting certified for scuba, doing martial arts,
Wow.
13 years of riding horses. My husband and I were both on horses when we met. When my son was a scout, I became an assistant scoutmaster. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do whitewater. We're going to go skiing together. We're going to do sailing. I got to do a week sail trip in college with the sailing club. I've been able to ride mules through the Rockies in Montana and raft down the upper and lower Colorado through the Grand Canyon. So those sorts of things, skydiving, lots of times, ballooning, hang gliding, these are the things that make me feel alive. And it was wonderful to do those with my son. We triple crowned with the venture crew. We summited the 14,000 foot Mount Baldy. So those are the things where I feel happiest is being outdoors. But other than that, I am happy to sit in the recliner and read a book. I love to read. I read voraciously. I just finally got a Kindle because I was just buying too many books.
Yeah.
Not great with the library. So I love to read, but I also love to, ski and do things that get my adrenaline going.
Yes.
Because, that second before you jump off that little bar into the sky.
Oh, man.
That feeling is just, or when you're going through a rapid, or you're looking out from the top of a mountain, or standing with your son, and you're going to ski down that mountain together, and you're in a snow globe of beautiful snow. Oh. Those are the moments that I feel most alive doing all that.
The skydiving, you got me there. That is crazy. No, I'm glad that you have this outlet for yourself and your everything. The universe really did align everything so perfectly. I feel for you. Like nothing's perfect, but I like the way that you have your job, but you also have this thrill that you use to get everything out and just be yourself and relax.
Just feel alive, yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Well, Lil, thank you so much. This was a fun discussion, and I really enjoyed it.